So I just wanted to share a little bit about, or as much as I can at this moment, about how yoga saved my life. Because I truly believe yoga did save my life. I'm so thankful I found it. So, in order to explain how it saved my life, I have to give you a little background, and some of this is a little rough, might be hard to hear, so a little forewarning. I'm going to talk about some abuse and trauma that I experienced, so if that is something you don't want to hear about, you may not want to watch this video. But if you want to know more about where I come from and my teaching comes from, this is it. So join me in my journey. So, and I might as well add too, I did start a podcast. This will probably go on there as a recording, so depending on where you're finding this, if you're finding it on YouTube, look for my podcast. If you're finding this on my podcast, look for me on YouTube. My YouTube is my name, Natalie Pendergrass. My podcast is The BLT Talk, because we all have bodies, lives, and trauma. And there's an underscore between the BLT and talk. So anyhow, how yoga saved my life. My earliest memories, unfortunately, I don't have a lot of good childhood memories. The majority of my memories is of being scared, hiding, praying to God, asking, why am I here? Because I never felt safe, I never felt wanted or loved. I felt in the way, like I caused all the problems, and that was, it's hard to place things and know what happened first, but I really don't think that the beatings happened when I was like an infant, but I honestly don't know. However, at some point I do know that daily beatings began, and not for all of us in the family. I'm one of 6. The daily beatings, unfortunately, were mine and mine alone to endure. And believe me, I've questioned this myself, and I've had others question me. Do you have other family members that can attest to this? So, well, yeah, I do. My youngest sister, I verified with her. We shared a room, and she told me how she knew she had to pretend that she was sleeping, because otherwise she would also have to endure a beating. So my little sister was in the room listening to my beatings and the anger and the yelling, the mental, emotional, and physical abuse that was being dished out on a daily basis. And sure, my mom has said in response to that, it wasn't every day. Well, like my sister said, sure, she had to take off some nights and weekends, right? I mean, we're all human. She can't do it every day. So maybe when I say that daily beatings or that it happened every day, maybe that is a little bit of an exaggeration. However, it was pretty much every day, to the point where when she would call my younger siblings to bed, I would hide. My older sisters, they just pretended nothing was happening, which was safest for them. If they pretended nothing was happening and they kept their noses out of it, they could probably stay safe. Well, I just had to go and deal with Mom's stresses of the day, let her take them out on me, and then we could all move forward. So, my beatings consisted of not only the verbal and emotional abuse, but one of the most significant things I remember is being grabbed by my hair and shaken back and forth, shaken. Why are you such a spaz? Why are you such a spaz? Why can't you just stand still? And tossed into the dresser across the room. So yeah, between that and being knocked around in the head, like slapped, I don't know if I was punched. I know I had a gushing bloody nose at least once. Whether it was a punch or a slap, I honestly can't say for sure. But from all that, I do remember having regular headaches, neck pain, a lot of stomach issues, a lot of digestive issues. As I tried to hold everything in and just deal with it on a daily basis. And that might sound like the worst of the abuse, but I'm just going to add briefly how the next day I be called into my mom's room to then have to apologize for making her do that to me. Just my phone here. That had to have been the worst part of it. I don't think that the beatings alone would have been as bad as they were made by having to go and tell her, I'm sorry I made you do that to me.
Turn right onto State Highway B and State Highway
And then I had to not only apologize for making her do that to me, but tell her I love her, give her a hug. And I remember the first time feeling like that hug meant something, that she really, I can't say that she was sorry, but that we were on a better page and we were now connected. Maybe she actually did love me and they would end. It didn't end, it was the start. And every time I had to go and apologize for making her do that to me. But so that's, the apologies were a little separate side note. They didn't have to do with my neck pain, but they do have to do with the the emotional and mental abuse that I was going through. I'm sorry if you keep hearing the directions too and you hear things clanking in the car. I just drove my daughter back to Lake Ozark. I'm on my way home. I have separate videos about that. But, so anyhow, back to how yoga saved me. I'm so thankful I found yoga. So, I wanted out of my house so bad. The abuse ended at some point. Actually, the physical abuse ended when my parents divorced. Crazy to laugh, but yeah, most kids get upset about their parents divorcing. I remember the day our parents announced it, and I tried not to smile because I hoped maybe this will be the end of her beating me every day. And thankfully it was. I don't know if it ended immediately. I didn't carry a calendar and log all this as a child. Looking back, I kind of wish I had, but then again, I don't think I'd ever want to look back at it. But it was around then that the physical daily beating stopped, and I'm so thankful. Sad that my dad left, but he had to do what he had to do. And I didn't have to live with the physical abuse, but the mental and emotional never ended. The medical neglect didn't end until I was 16 at least. Another video. Anyhow, so I went on dealing with a lot of pain mentally and physically throughout my life. When I did turn 16, one thing my mom didn't neglect was she made sure we got our licenses right away, because if I got my license right away, well then I could drive my other siblings around and I could go to the grocery store for her. So actually, I guess I am going to get into that medical neglect aspect now, because I needed glasses for as long as I can remember. It was probably kindergarten when the school first sent home a notification, and I got yelled at for giving that to her, because how dare I expect her to take time off of work, or to take maybe she didn't even say work, I didn't know if she was working at the time, but I dare expect her to take the time to take me to get glasses, and no way they could know that I need glasses, and so on and so forth. So I didn't give her any more notices. I didn't say anything more about it. I know at least one, probably more notices were mailed home.
Take the third exit onto Missouri 19 North.
But didn't matter the notices she was given. I wasn't getting glasses until when I was 16. She took me to get my probably 15. Took me to get my permit. And in trying to get my permit, they said that, well, they said, can you read the bottom line? And I looked in there and I said, where's the bottom line? And she said, well, what can you read? And I made up what I thought I was reading on, I just took a wrong turn. What I thought I was reading on the top line, I just made it up.
South on US
and
54 West.
that wasn't actually right.
Continue on US 54 West.
Instead, she said I did not pass the vision
In
test.
150 feet,
And then
take the first exit and stay on US 54 East.
Sorry, I was,
Exit the traffic circle onto US 54
sorry,
East.
give the directions a chance.
Continue on US
I was
54
told
East,
that,
55 miles.
and it was listed on my permit I wasn't allowed to drive unless it was a bright sunny day with adult supervision. So no nighttime driving, no cloudy day driving, no fog, until I got glasses. Go figure. I knew I was blind as a bat. That was also very traumatic growing up, not being able to see and socialization and so forth, but another story, got plenty of them. So anyhow, got my permit, got my license at 16, and I had found freedom. I was so thankful. Prior to my car, I was out on bike rides all the time, is why I still have such a love for bicycles. But once I got my license, bicycles took a back seat because the car could take me further faster. And my dad was a bit of a daredevil. I learned from him how to find freedom in going fast, and really enjoyed going fast, got lots of speeding tickets, and unfortunately also had a lot of car accidents. I can tell you though, they weren't my fault. I am known for taking chances. I'm known for having more injuries than others, but those car accidents were not my fault, at least not most of them. Maybe a few of them where I just slid off the road because I was going a little too fast on bald tires, but those weren't even major accidents. They're just slide off the road and get the car back. But the worst of it was I had 1 year in my teens. I think it was maybe 17 to 18, or maybe it was 16. I think it was 17, 18, not sure. But I was rear-ended at least 5, if not 6 times. I literally lost track of how many times I was rear-ended. None of them my fault. I actually was front-ended once that year. I had somebody in a parking lot see that a front space was open, put their car in reverse, and drive backwards into the front of my car. Yeah, it was a bad year for car accidents. And so what I'm getting at is, because of the earlier trauma that I had sustained to my neck and then all these car accidents, I was in constant neck pain. It was horrible. I remember looking down for anything was just so painful for any amount of time. What I also didn't know was, at that time, I always knew I was different. Believe me, I was harassed by my family for being different and being needy, and my sister thought I wanted glasses just to be cool. Yeah, bullshit. I actually wanted to just see. I was harassed for everything, including, it turns out, I only found out in the last year through genetic testing, they actually do have classic type Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Caused me other issues, probably why my mom considered me a spaz when she shook me by my head, because I am hypermobile. My body is just more wiggly than others, and unfortunately, because it's so wiggly, it also responds to all that wiggling more than others, and to injuries and accidents more than others. I have a harder time healing more so than others, and it did affect me, and it still affects me in so many ways. And one more form of abuse from my family, again, just being harassed for the different issues it caused. Like, if I didn't warm up my ankles, even when I was a kid, before I ran, I would literally collapse and probably scream because I would get this sharp pain. It felt like my ankle broke. I would drop to the ground, and literally within a few seconds of just moving it around, I could walk again. So, of course, they took that as faking. Wasn't faking, that was EDS. So, between the early abuse, the later car accidents, the Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, I was in a lot of pain. I have dealt with so much pain in my life. It's unbelievable the number of decades that I've dealt with pain. It's also why I was so sympathetic to my dad. dad died in 21 of multiple myeloma. Prior to that, he had many decades of pain. And we talked a lot, and I always tried to help him, but yeah, it's another tangent. Anyhow, so eventually, I'll just skip ahead a while. I met my husband, who I'm so thankful for, and we married in '97. He helped me to escape my birth family, and you know, we were mostly happy. We certainly had our issues. I'll talk about that another time. Everybody does. We've grown and learned so much. We've been married now 26 years. I'm so happy to say. But we had our first son in 2000. I was in May of 2000, so I was pregnant for a lot of 99 and then into 2000. And after I had our first son, oh, I love him so much. I had gained a lot of weight. I was so happy during my pregnancy just to be carrying him, to be creating this life. I was so connected with my growing belly. I didn't notice how much the rest of me was growing. It was during that time that while I was pregnant and he was growing and flourishing inside of me that I did deal with what would probably be called morning sickness. However, mine was unlike what I've ever heard from anybody else. Mine consisted of waking up in the middle of the night, feeling extremely nauseous, having to sit up in bed and then belch ridiculously. Yeah. Unfortunately, I've now since learned decades, like he's 23 years old now, that's part of the EDS. So due to the relaxant of being pregnant, my esophagus, or I don't know, little flapper thingy in the back, I can't think of what it's called exactly, that decides if your food's going, this way or that way, and if you're breathing or not, got all stretched out. Apparently I swallow more air than I should, just my little flapper thing doesn't work so well again. EDS, relaxing due to pregnancy, and I still belch like you wouldn't believe. Fortunately, I've also been told by my family, I disgust everyone and no one can stand to be around me. Yeah, because I belch. Excuse me. Sorry, don't want to keep it in and explode, because literally those gases get bad. Gotta let them out. People who know me and accept me, accept it, because they love me, and thank you. Thank you to those people who know, love, and accept me and appreciate me for who I am. That's all I want to say. And those who matter don't mind, and those who mind don't matter. Amen. So I met my husband, had my first son, went through labor and delivery, and it all went pretty well. It was a very long labor and delivery, but I delivered a very healthy, happy, beautiful big baby. He was 8 pounds 9 ounces after, wait, why did I say that? I don't know why I just said that. That was the wrong thing. I don't know what I was saying. I think I just read a sign. Sorry, a little ADHD too. But so he was born at 9 pounds, and on the way to the scale he peed, and when I weighed him he was actually 8 pounds 15 ounces. That's what I meant to say. So on his birth record is 8 pounds 15 ounces, although I know I gave birth to 9 because he released a bunch on his way to the scale. And 22 inches long, and he was beautiful and made me so happy. And so I was in all this bliss with him, and after I got home from the hospital, I was having issues with urinary incontinence due to the EDS. I later found out I had 2 hernias and a prolapsed bladder, all EDS related, but that doesn't matter. We should just pretend those things aren't actually happening. Sorry, just a side note for my family. But I also found that I weighed 208 pounds. That was after the baby was out of me. I'm not sure what I weighed just before I went to the hospital, but clearly it was quite a bit. Thankfully, I was still joyful. I was still able to look at my body and be thankful. I remember seeing myself in my skin just hanging and just feeling gross. And I don't know if you've had a baby, but afterwards you tend to sweat a lot. Your body's trying to get rid of all this fluid. I'm all sweaty and hot and feeling nasty, but at the same time looking at my body with such appreciation. I did such amazing work. I pushed out that beautiful baby after carrying him for 9 months, and I was so proud of myself and my body and what I had done. And I knew I was going to do better than what my mom did. I was going to parent, I was going to listen, I was going to love and support. I was not going to just decide because he had a penis that he was better than everybody and knew everything and got everything right. Anyhow, side note. But so, after he was born, I was 208 pounds and breastfeeding. I knew I wanted to get in better shape, so I started walking. Walking was fantastic. It really helped a lot. Him in the stroller, we had a Dalmatian, he'd be on the leash, and we'd go out and walk every morning. And at this time, so again, this is 2000. Look out, sorry, there was somebody standing on the side of the road, had to go into the center for a moment and make sure I don't hit a person. But anyhow, so I also had been hearing more and more about yoga. And of course, my mom had made fun of yoga when I was on the TV when I was young, but I didn't really give a shit at this point. At this point, I basically had accepted that probably anything my mom was against was something I was for. Just to be quite honest. So I knew I really wanted to try yoga. I also knew I didn't have a lot of time or money, so I got a Yoga for Dummies book, and I remember standing there, Colin is on the floor, I've got my arms out in a warrior 2 position, it probably was, and just thinking, like, what the hell is this? Like, I'm just standing here with my arms out, like, what is this supposed to do for me? I don't get it, and I will admit, I didn't actually read much of the book. It was more like, see pictures, read the caption, try it. And yeah, just ADHD. Didn't have a lot of time, new parent and so forth. But so I just had this idea that I really wanted to get into a yoga class. And that was kind of the forefront of my mind. And thankfully that energy was out there, and I have always felt a connection with God and that He hears me and protects me. Yahweh, Abba Father, thank you for always being with me throughout my life, because it truly was a voice that was not my own that saved me. When I was in middle school, I kept going through suicide attempts and wishes and dreams and contemplations, and I learned through an epiphany, if you will, that wasn't the way for me. But so I was always a prayer and looking to God, and so I felt like I've always had a strong connection, and sometimes I can just speak and I'm heard and listened to, responded to. And so it wasn't long, within a few months, my brother ended up coming over and saying, hey, while I was out, I ran into this friend of yours from high school, here's her number. So he gives me her number, I end up giving her a call, and lo and behold, she's been taking a yoga class. So I was very excited about that, and she invited me. It was about a half hour from my house, and I eagerly went. It was in the evening. I was concerned about that because by nighttime I was always very tired. But I really wanted to go. I really wanted to find a class, and this sounded good. It wasn't, well, they weren't any yoga studios then. It was just in a woman's house. There were 2 yoga teachers that lived there together, and they both taught, and my friend invited me to the intermediate class that she had been attending. And I thought, intermediate? She's like, you can do it. You know, it'll be fine. It's not that big of a deal. She said most of the people there had been practicing like 7 years. She'd been there for like 2 or 3 years or something, I don't remember. But so she invited me, and I went for that first class. And I think it was Uma teaching. Uma and Shirley were the 2 teachers. Shirley Walter, or Sarla, was my main teacher. And it was an incredible experience. And they were the best teachers. Shirley ended up doing my teacher training. But prior to that, my first day in class, I remember even when we just sat there, and it was so profound. Them instructing what I felt like was me, obviously it was all of us, but instructing me on how to sit how to balance out my weight, how to bring my head back over my shoulders and tuck my chin and breathe into the back of my neck. And it didn't hurt. It was one of the first times in my life when I felt I had control over my body. Probably the first time in my life. I shouldn't even say that one of. Maybe giving birth to my son was the first. Those instructions. It was life-changing. I started to feel like I can take control of my body and my mind. I could start to learn to quiet the voices in my head that told me I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't strong enough, that I had to obey, that I had to look for others for the input and do as they told me, that there was strength within. It was so powerful. That very first day, I remember so many moments. I remember getting onto hands and knees. Again, I'm 208 pounds, and I'm on hands and knees, and my arms are shaking. My knees are on the floor. We're not doing much. We're just on hands and knees. We are just prepping to do a cat stretch, and my arms are shaking and holding my weight, and I'm feeling so weak, and I'm starting to feel ashamed of myself in this place where I've gotten when I'm reminded by this outside voice to just be, to just accept, to be present, and to know that just by doing, we're improving. Just by being there and trying, we're doing better than we were sitting at home and ignoring. And I kept trying. I kept trying and trying, and later in that same very class, I'll never forget this moment either. It was a very profound class. But we practiced bridge, and they gave the best instructions. I love the instructions that I was given. It was amazing and powerful. And we were instructed through bridge, and this is an intermediate class, and most of the people have been practicing 7 years, and they talk about wheel. And I know none of the names at this point, but they said if you're on your back and you want to try it, you can bring your arms up and your fingertips toward your shoulders, your palms flat on the mat, and press into the floor and lift up to wheel. And I did. I don't know how. I could barely hold myself up on hands and knees, and yet I pushed up into a full wheel, and they were saying I could lift your hips high, and I was doing it, and it felt amazing, and I couldn't see anybody else. All I knew was what I was doing, and I believe it was Uma who came over to me, and she said, "How long have you been practicing?" And I said, "Today." and that just made up for everything else and that whole class felt so hard. I knew this is something that is really for me. All that I had felt during it that was challenging and profound, and now this power and strength, I had to know more. And I left that night, again, I was concerned that I would be tired and unable to really do the class or enjoy the class because I would be so sleepy. I had to dry my eyes. I keep getting tears. And I left there, and I was just like, wow, I feel amazing. I feel incredible. I have to do that again. This is the start of something, and it sure was. I kept going back week after week, and I'll never forget also a couple of things. One is when I was taking Shirley's classes. At the end of the class, I ended up in more of Shirley's classes than Uma's. I think it was just scheduling, I'm not really sure. But I would be taking, again, usually Shirley's classes, and at the end we would finish in Savasana, and she would be talking us through the Savasana. There was never, there was moments of silence, but never just like silent for all of Savasana. No, you were told how to relax your body, which was incredible, something I still do. But we would be brought out of that, turn to your side, sit up. We would, get to the point where we say namaste, open up our eyes, and there's our teacher. Gray-haired, not like your traditional yoga body, in a headstand. And I was like, that's incredible. And I was taking yoga for months with her when one day she announced that her 70th birthday was coming up and there was going to be a celebration. And I was like, that will be me one day. I want to be the teacher on her head in front of the room at 70. Still that vital and healthy and youthful and spreading love, peace, and joy in the world. I want to be her. And it was awesome when about 7 months into my practice with Shirley, she announced that she was going to start another teacher training. So she had been a teacher. She had been a teacher for the Himalayan Yoga Meditation, Himalayan Institute, sorry to get all the names messed up, but for the Himalayan Institute, and had a close relationship with Swami Rama, learned directly from him, and she had actually run an ashram, or I guess maybe it wasn't an ashram, but a yoga meditation center under the Himalayan name in Shamrock for 25 years, which had closed maybe a decade before I was now meeting her. And she said, so, she was a very experienced yoga teacher trainer, and she would be starting a new training, and she started listing the requirements to take her teacher training. One of them being that you had to have taken yoga with her for at least a year. When she leaned to me and she said, but that doesn't apply to you. You just need to do this. And I knew again, it was God had guided me there. And through her, he was continuing to lead me on my path. I took the yoga teacher training, and she continued to help transform my life. I owe so much to Shirley Sarla, as many know her, for what I do and for who I am now. And I wanted to put this together to remind anybody else who's out there who is suffering or has suffered from child abuse, abuse as an adult, sexual abuse, whatever it is, it's all bad. Any form of trauma you may have had, and I'll tell you, those aren't the only traumas. Again, I had a rollover car accident in 21. So many things can happen to an individual and in a life. And we are all given the choice in how we move forward from it. We can either stay in that pain and just tread water constantly of this pain and horrible feelings and feel like we're going to be overwhelmed by it at any moment, or we can lift ourselves out of it. And that's what I chose to do. You have that within you. We all do. Sometimes it's hard to find, believe me. I have been in the depths of it where it was so hard to find. I highly recommend you connect with a higher source. It doesn't have to be a Christian or Catholic God or a God of any religion, but to understand, accept that this great spirit that fills and surrounds everything, created our earth and brought us to it and provides out for all of our needs, is not only around you but within you, and can be awakened within you by simply just looking inside. Going inside, finding peace. You have to delve into the pain to move forward. It's not easy. I'll tell you that for sure. It is not easy, but it is so worthwhile. And I encourage you from the depths of my soul to do anything that inspires you to take a step out of any darkness that you're feeling and become a light and a beacon of hope in the world. Because when you help you, you're helping the whole world to heal. You're helping past and future generations of your family and other families heal from their trauma. I know that's why my daughter and I were brought together now. We're healing ourselves, our past generations, and future generations of both of our families and everybody we come in contact with. Thank you for listening to me. I know it's been long, but I've been wanting to share a little bit more about my story and how I came to yoga and how yoga saved my life, and encourage you to maybe find a yoga practice. If you're currently thinking yoga's not for me, it's probably because you know it'll challenge you to go inside. That's what yoga does, at least I don't want to just say a good yoga class, but let's say a traditional yoga class. I'm not talking about taking yoga for fitness where they're powering you through moves. No, something where it invites you to connect with your body. I'm excited to announce that I'm looking for a space to teach. I'm really trying to get my basement redone so I can get back to teaching and teach there, maybe invite a few locals over, and then be able to go live on YouTube and Facebook and share those classes and my teachings. We'll see how it evolves, but I'm so excited to continue teaching and offering what I can to the world and to help others in their healing process. Thank you for being with me today. In peace. And in the name of the Great Spirit, namaste.